sit back as we fill your mind with spooky true crime stories of the deranged, unhinged, and absolute pure evil murders that will blow your mind. Some places we will visit to show you around and educate you on the history. Other times we will bring you to the paranormal because the dead never lie silent for too long.
Be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we're gonna get fucking killed.
Hello? Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Shannon.
I'm Gina.
Yes.
How
Today's
are you?
good. But I'm going to say how fun today's episode's going to be.
Yeah.
We're going to do a shoot the shit with Gina and Shannon. But we're going to get Gina's true reaction to certain claims of a case that's popping off on the headlines right now.
Yeah.
Regarding Scott Peterson and the LA Innocence Project.
Yes.
Not to be mistaken with the Innocence Project, because I made that mistake. So just throwing it out there. But I am really excited because I want to get Gina's true reactions to this, because last time we did the episode on the Scott Peterson and Laci Peterson case, and those of you who aren't familiar with it, you were just born or you're under a rock.
Right.
But
Who are you?
Right. But if you're not, I would go back and I'd probably look at some other videos, ours or anybody else's, regarding the Scott and Laci Peterson case.
Yes, there's a plethora. There's
And we'll probably touch on a little bit about it as we're discussing some of these claims. But the LA Innocence Project took on this case.
Yeah.
Due to Scott pushing, though, he did reach out to them. They didn't reach out to him. He reached out to the LA Innocence Project, said, hey, look at my case. They thought there was enough there to at least take a look at it and revisit it. And now they took up his case, and now there are channel after channel doing YouTube's podcast on it, revisiting it, breaking it down, and what possibly the LA Innocence Project could have on this case.
Yeah, because initially I heard that they had new evidence. And so I'm not sure I'm convinced they have new evidence that we don't know about.
Yes.
I think it's just evidence that wasn't brought to trial the first time.
Yeah. He claims that there is a lot of evidence that was suppressed during the first trial. And he wants those to be brought forward, such as witnesses and things like that. But these are the claims that we're going to go over. And I'm going to say the claim because last time, like I was saying, that we did the episode on this, a lot of people came after Gina because she took the stance where, hey, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Maybe he might be innocent. Let's just go down that route. She didn't say that he was innocent.
No.
She didn't say he should be out of jail. She basically just said, hey, let me play devil's advocate.
There was just a lot of things that I don't think were, talked about at the trial. And if you're going to, I think both sides of any trial need to be presented.
Absolutely.
So regardless if he did it or not, I think in all fairness, everything needs to be submitted.
That's what our justice system should be like.
Yeah.
Because then you won't get people who are in jail.
Yeah.
Who didn't commit the crime.
Who didn't commit crimes. Yeah.
Because we know there are people in there in jail. I mean, we've worked with, the Compton Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't work with them, but,
Yeah, we've been to their fundraisers
and stuff.
Sat and listened to two families that both have
really strong cases.
Very strong cases. And these two men are just in prison and have been in prison for a very long time.
Yes. And they're trying to get them out. So there are cases out there where people do come out.
Yeah.
And it's proved DNA evidence came forward because back when they were convicted, DNA evidence wasn't a thing. And now it is.
Yeah.
And it's exonerated these men.
Mm-hmm.
And they've come out.
And they clearly said, the LA Innocence Project says that they believe that what they will present, he will be exonerated.
Yeah. I mean, I believe they wouldn't take up the case if they didn't actually believe that.
Yeah.
But do I believe Scott Peterson is innocent? Me personally, no. But I always believe that somebody should have a fair trial. And if there was actually stuff that was withheld and suppressed, and it's stuff that maybe they believe that can exonerate him, let's bring it to light. Because if it doesn't, at least we can throw it to the side, and at least we know with peace of mind and peace of heart. Because I always say the one thing you can never get back is time. You know, you can't get that back. So if these men are sitting in jail for a crime they did not commit, you can never, no matter how much money you give them, you can give them $50 million for their time. It doesn't bring back that time.
Nope.
And so that's the one thing you can't make up.
Yeah.
So but I thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
If I went over the claims, and Gina will talk about the argument as to why or why not. I mean, we can go back and forth. And just kind of look at it.
A lot of them, like I said, I'm not truly convinced that he's innocent, but I'm not truly convinced that he's guilty. Mm-hmm. So I don't have an argument for everything. We watched Annie Elise, her video 10 to Life. We also watched Behind Criminal Minds.
Yes.
And
we've also the A&E.
The A&E special, which I believe Behind Criminal Minds, that's kind of what they broke down. And it's a 6-part series, so it's kind of long, and it's not new. It's been out for a long time.
No. Yeah.
But they do kind of look at it from a different angle than most docuseries or.
It was very biased towards. It was a pro Scott Peterson,
right? So
series,
but I'm assuming that these are the claims that they're gonna bring up.
Yes, that I don't know what.
Yeah,
new,
I don't.
But.
Yeah, and initially when it first came out, they said that they have new evidence, and that's what initially caught my attention, because you're the one that sent me an article on it. And when I read it, I thought, okay, what new information could they possibly have after 20 something years that's going to exonerate this guy?
But maybe they do.
Exactly.
And they haven't come out with it. They're gathering everything up.
And of course, we're not going to find out till it goes to trial.
Yeah.
So.
But right now, what we do know. So one of the arguments is that there was a burglary at the house across the street at the time of Laci's disappearance.
Correct.
And that they haven't completely looked at these two men. Mm-hmm. Do you want to say anything on that? What do you believe on that?
No, I feel like every angle needs to be looked at. They need to be looked into. They need to be questioned. They need to be, everything needs to be investigated, because sometimes you can look at a case and you think you have it all figured out, and in your mind, just like when we watched American Nightmare, and I watched them and I'm like, you're guilty and you're guilty. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that's not what happened. Wow, this was a really fucking crazy story. This really happened. So there are chances.
Well, according to Behind Criminal Minds, that those men were looked into, that there are notes on it. He read through all the documents of the police investigation, and those men were actually looked into thoroughly, and they were actually cleared. So the claim that they weren't even looked into is not particularly true. I don't know how deep they looked into it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and nobody knows.
But based on records that the detectives did question them, but there's supposedly a recorded jailhouse phone call between one of the burglars and his brother, and he talks about taking Laci in this recorded phone call.
Right.
But where's the phone call? Because if there was a phone call, why has that phone call not been produced? What do you think would be the LA Innocence stance on that? Like,
well, to me, if he's calling from jail, there's got to be recorded. But when did this happen? How long do they keep these recordings for? I mean, we're talking about 20 years. You
You
know?
would think that would be really important, though, to
Absolutely.
hang on to.
Absolutely.
So one could be that it got lost.
And then again, you can look on the other side and be like, this guy's talking on a phone that he knows is being recorded. Is he really going to confess to doing this?
Did it really happen
So
in the first place?
you can look at it, and that's how all these conspiracies become, and this is how all these different angles come up, and everybody gets in this whole, you know, all these arguments and everything. The truth of the matter is, I don't know, you don't know, and nobody out there listening to this video knows
That's what we always say.
really happened.
We always say that about the Chris Watts case.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to know, even about all these murders. Nobody knows except the two people that were there, the
Right.
murderer and the victim.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, there are some that are pretty cut and dry.
yeah.
But this one, I feel like there's, you know, especially with something big like this, especially with something big like a phone call being recorded.
And that's what they get. They kind of break it down saying, like, if there was a recorded call, how come there's no proof of it? There's no, there's absolutely, from these two guys, no motive at all. There's no evidence that links these burglars to Laci's murder. But then that's where we go to the orange van that was found burnt out.
Yes.
So there's an orange van that was located, completely burned, and they're saying that it burned probably physical evidence, and they're saying this could probably, and there was a mattress with blood on it.
Correct.
So what are we doing
That's
with that?
huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. I mean,
Did they look into that closely? Is that the new smoking gun where now they can figure out the blood?
to me, I
Whose
feel
blood that
like
was.
to me, I feel like that's got to be it, because for them to pick up this case, there's got to be some sort of DNA.
That's what I would think too. Even though there's one claim that there's no physical evidence, it was all based off circumstantial evidence.
Right.
But there was pliers with Laci's hair stuck in it in his boat.
That's his wife.
But
She'd never been there, and I get it that she'd never been in there.
It's a new boat.
But let's be honest. I've probably found a piece of your hair in my ass crack. Are you up in my ass? No.
But if it's stuck in between the pliers, I can see it being on top of it, around it, somewhere
You
in
don't
it, but
know.
stuck inside
Maybe it
it.
was on his hand and he opened it, and like stranger things have happened.
That
like,
is true.
Honestly, you know what I mean? And they're saying like, oh, she had never been there.
But
it doesn't matter because you have when you wash your clothes in the same washer and dryer, if you live in the same home as people, if you visit other people, you bring stuff home with you.
So my question is, how much hair was found then? Is it stuck in there because there's flesh stuck in there or blood stuck in there? Well, no, because they would have said that. So if is it just
like
strands
from the
of hair?
root? Is it from just
So how much hair is actually found on this pliers in the boat? So one of the things about the boat is that he did purchase the boat. He didn't purchase it too far in advance from when Laci goes missing. He spends $1,500 on this boat that they really don't have, but he took it out of their savings to purchase it. And the one key thing he needed on this boat was a depth detector so that he can measure the depth of the water. So the prosecution is saying he needed this because he needed to know where to dump the body, how deep the water was going to be. I don't how much thought he put into this, because him and Amber Frey did not have an affair for very long. They met at the end of November, the middle to end of November.
Around Thanksgiving.
And Laci goes missing
Christmas Eve.
They've only known each other about a month.
Yeah.
So for him to put this much thought into, I mean, honestly, I go back to like kind of, it would happen regardless, because to me, it probably was something that was in process before Amber Frey. If he was guilty, I think he did it, but I think it was something he was probably thinking about for a lot longer than just the affair. So when they say, oh, it's because of the affair, I don't think it's because of the affair.
No, and that does not make him a murderer.
No, absolutely not.
Having an affair doesn't make him a murderer. And I get that, like, people keep saying, you know, he was in this new relationship. He was head over heels. They were moving very, very quickly, because Amber even says that he had already been introduced to her child. He already had a key to her house.
Yes. He already had the responsibility.
He was picking her daughter up from daycare. So and I mean, if to be in a relationship for a month, absolutely, that's moving very quickly. Mm-hmm. But I don't think anybody's gonna be so giddy and like in love that you're gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna kill my wife to be with you. Yeah. Again, just like the Chris Watts thing, just leave.
Yes, I don't understand it.
What is his motive for killing her?
I don't think it's the Amber Frey. I kind of take it back to where he didn't want to have kids. He made it clear he didn't want to have kids. She talked to supposedly based on his side of the story. She talked him into having this one child. Mm-hmm. And as it was coming near to the child being born, I think maybe
he just said, hey, I'm going to kill her and the kid.
I just going to get rid of them.
That's pretty drastic to me. Like,
but he did have life insurance on them.
I don't know. I just feel like to try to pull something off like this, or for your mind to even go in that direction, that's big. That's a big thing.
I think it's
because
not
in my head, you can just be like, you know what? This isn't what I wanted. I'll pay you child support. Even if whatever, worst comes to worst, I don't want to be a dad. I'm going to sign off my parental rights, go find yourself a husband, raise my kid.
Yeah, I see that, but it's not the first time a man has killed because his wife's pregnant and he doesn't want to raise the kid. I mean, I'll take you back to Boston, where the guy in the car, he shoots his wife in the head, shoots himself even, and claims that two black men tried to rob him and shoot and kill him. And it turns out that it was him who shot his wife.
But what is their
crazy motive?
What is their mental state though? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like he really had a history of mental illness or.
Oh, you never know. I mean, this could be the first time that he snapped, but that doesn't mean that he didn't do it just because sometimes people just snap, and we know that too. And we always talk about, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and it's never been brought up on Scott Peterson, so don't quote me on this. This isn't a reason. I'm not even going to say it is. But we always talk about women and what happens because, they're having a baby, the hormonal changes, things like that. But what happens in a man when he's having a child? I don't see, because you know how they have the sympathy, they start eating, they gain the weight.
Well, I'll tell you, my ex-husband got morning sickness.
I'm telling you, I think seriously, men chemically, and they even say it too, like even when you're really comfortable or in love with somebody, you can fall asleep quicker in their arms because chemically you're connected.
Right.
You feel comfortable. Why would that not be the same when you're having a child and you're the dad?
Right.
Why are you can possibly, so this whole concept of women having extreme PTSD, what is it? The postnatal, I was going to say PTSD, the postnatal, what is it? The postpartum. Thank you. I got to go to Gina all the time for the words. The postpartum.
I wasn't sure what you were trying to say.
It starts with a P.
When you said PTSD, I was like.
Starts with a P, I know. Postpartum, maybe. I mean, we might find out in the future that there might be some type of link where men snap. I mean, who knows? Because this isn't the first time that men have killed their wives who are pregnant.
No, I mean, absolutely.
Why? And that's always the question we go back to is to why would they do that? Why would they love someone? I just don't understand it. You love them so much to marry them. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they get pregnant and you snap and you don't want them around anymore to the point where you're going to kill them.
Yeah, I think it's a very drastic move.
Yeah, absolutely. So the part about the boat, I'm going to go back to the boat because we have eyewitnesses and stuff. And there's a lot of eyewitnesses that said they saw Scott down at the marina, Berkeley Marina, where they did eventually find the bodies of Laci and Connor at wash up on the shore, not too far from this marina. So eyewitnesses saw Scott there that morning because he claimed that he went fishing. Although he did tell some people he was going golfing. But he actually
going fishing.
He ended up going fishing, which he said was a last minute thing, which really wasn't, because you need a permit to go fishing. And he purchased the permit on December 20th for the 2 days.
That was the last day that he could have used it.
And the 23rd and the 24th were the last. He purchased it for the 23rd and 24th, and the 24th was the last day he could use it. So witnesses saw him there. There was a tarp over it, and his claim is that the claim of the prosecution, of the defense, is that there is no way that he could have a almost 9-month pregnant. She was due in February. This is December 24th. So let's say 8 months pregnant. Put her in this small little boat. If you see the boat, it's not very big. It's a little fishing boat. Have her in there where you can't see her. And then not only have that in there, but have the weights in there that he's going to use to throw her over, the anchors that he made himself. And he's going to toss him over the side of the boat without the boat capsizing. And the defense actually set up a whole video and everything of it.
I agree.
The prosecution came back and said, wait a second, they actually put somebody in the boat.
Yeah, they
with
did
the tarp,
and it was...
And you can't see the person. You can't see a person in there.
You're not going to be able to see a person, but you mean to tell me that if somebody is out there dumping a body...
They're
a body,
8 miles. But they're 8 miles out. You can't see from the shore 8 miles out.
I don't think he was out there by himself.
It's Christmas Eve. It's one of the least, most men are out there.
I think that
on Christmas
I'm not
Eve.
going to say it's impossible for him to have dumped it without the boat capsizing. But I think that it would have been hard to do. It was a very small boat. And that would have been a lot of stuff to be lugging around in there. And think about it. Think about having somebody, and I get it. She was probably my height, my build.
Tiny.
But imagine me 8 months pregnant, laying down in a small little boat, and then you're going to roll me off of that boat. He couldn't dead weight pick her up. There's no way. We've talked about dead weight before.
Dead weight's hard.
And so now you have her plus a basically like a baby that's fully developed pretty much, and weights and everything, and you're going to
toss her off the side
by yourself, toss her off the side of this little dinghy.
But I think that's not as far-fetched as two men who just grab her for no reason and take her and just decide that they're going to take her out to the same marina that
but how many?
So we've always said we don't believe in
coincidences.
Circumstances. We do believe in circumstances. We don't believe in coincidences for them to end up there. But there is another point to that it was all over the news that they were looking at him and where he was prior.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that's why whoever took her chose that spot.
Right.
So we do have that back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like I'm sure just by what I've said so far in this video, people are going to come at me and I'm like, bring it on, bring it on.
I made her play devil's advocate, people.
But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't, in my mind, I am not beyond a reasonable doubt. If I was on that jury, I would not have been able to sentence him to death or life in prison. But But
they did pick apart, because I did watch that video that they made.
But what I do want to say is I might have been able to by the evidence that they showed.
Yes.
But if you add on the evidence that they didn't show, that's going to give you reasonable doubt.
That's where he's coming in saying, like, there's a
Yes.
lot that they didn't show.
And that's what I
But
think
do you
needs to be
think-
touched on.
And I know I'm getting this from Behind Criminal Minds too, which I'm all about the other side, where if they would have had sufficient evidence to bring that wasn't going to get picked apart and wasn't going to get absolutely destroyed by the prosecution, don't you think they would have brought it forward? Because there's some of the stuff that they could have brought forward that they chose not to bring forward, the defense team, as far as like the witnesses.
Right.
That video that they showed.
Mhm.
I mean, the video that, and I'm talking about a video that they recreated where they showed a man in a boat trying to throw off a body and showing that it capsized. But you can clearly see the man's trying to get the boat
Exactly.
to capsize.
And I am going to say just,
it was really hard because
it was very dramatic.
And that fishing boat, though, you can fit 3 or 4 men on there fishing, lugging in fish without the boat capsizing. It's very hard to get a boat to capsize, especially in calm, clear water.
Right. And I get that. I do completely understand that. I'm just thinking of him being by himself. When you're upright and you're like, those men are alive and have the wherewithal to be able to balance, be able to do this, do that. When you're trying to lift a dead pregnant body at that, and you're by yourself, and let's not fail to remember that he supposedly just murdered his wife. I'm sure adrenaline is pumping. I'm sure he is nervous. I'm sure, God only knows what's going on in his mind. He's probably not thinking much. It just doesn't.
And I do want to say on the other, I'm going to go talk about the time frame. He is out there in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's at nighttime. It's not Dexter time.
Exactly.
If anybody watched Dexter, he always dumps the bodies at night from his boat. It's actually in broad daylight.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of the day.
It's pretty ballsy.
But he does claim that he comes back in early because it starts to rain, but weather forecast does not show any rain. He's got a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of lies in his story. And what I want to point out is if a man was truly innocent, why would he lie? And the lies just pile up and he stumbles over his lies. I just don't understand why he would have to lie about, it started to rain, so I'm coming in. I went golfing. No, I didn't go golfing. I did last minute fishing. Well, it really wasn't last minute fishing. It's just kind of, it's a lie after a lie after lie with this guy. But because of these inconsistencies, there's one claim that the police zeroed in on Scott way too fast and didn't look at all the other evidence.
I think that's true.
But he contributed to that. I mean, just by his suspicious behavior. And like we always said, we never know how people are going to react when their wife goes missing. But he had a lot of suspicious behavior.
I think that what did not make him look good was being at the vigil 30 minutes before the vigil was set to start. He's talking to Amber on the phone saying that he's at the Eiffel Tower or whatever
in Paris. He's trying so hard not to be. He was refusing to have his picture taken, refusing to be on camera because he was so concerned because Amber didn't know he was married.
Right.
He wasn't ready to tell her. He was telling her that he was separated, that his wife actually had already died at one point. He told her a month before, or a couple months before, and he had all these lies going on. The guy does have something very consistent about him. He's consistently lying. That is one thing we can count on from this guy. But he was lying to her about all the places, he's been, things like that. But yeah, he's telling her he's trying so hard not to get on camera because he doesn't want her to see that it's him.
Yeah, of course.
This is all over the news. How is he going to avoid this? Her not finding out eventually.
I mean, let's just go back to men that cheat. How do they think that they're not going to get caught?
It is so true. Like they will die on that sword.
Exactly.
Like,
So I mean,
it was not me. That song is so true. She caught me in the shower. It wasn't me.
Yeah, it's like when you look at it from that angle, that just makes him a man.
Yeah.
Basically, like
we just lost
or a
all
woman.
our men's listeners.
Or a woman.
Yeah. Well, anybody
who's cheating, you know, you're in a different mindset, and you always think like, oh, I'm covering my tracks. Oh, nobody knows. Oh, this, oh, that, you know, like you get, it's a different, and again, that does not make him a murderer.
Okay. So we're going to go to the part where
I feel like I'm in court right now. Do I get
You
one
are on
phone?
trial.
Do I get
Give
one
a
phone call?
So, Scott called homicide detective Rocchini, I think I'm saying his name correctly, at the Modesto Police Department hours after Laci's disappearance. Okay, if my husband went missing, I would not call my husband and I would not call the detectives and say, hey, have you gotten out the cadaver dogs yet?
Okay.
But wait a second. I'm gonna play you only because at this point when I'm listening to some of the podcasts that we were listening to, my husband was in the car at the same time. And my husband turned to me and he goes, what was wrong with him asking that?
There you go.
And I said, the cadaver dogs. He goes, well, he wanted them to locate her. So in his mind,
Yeah, that did to him. Cadaver
was like-
didn't mean a dead body.
I didn't mean a dead body. To my husband, even, it meant, don't they want to sniff out to see where the last place she was? I said, but a cadaver dog sniffs out dead bodies. He goes, oh, well, maybe he slipped up in what he was trying to say because that's not the first thing that came to my mind. I thought about, he was sitting there going, I thought about why
could have
the dogs?
He could have just thought that they were trying to just follow a trail of where she could have went.
Yeah. Go, why aren't you getting out the dogs to see who took her or
Right.
where she went? But
To me, him making that comment didn't really necessarily mean anything.
But the cadaver dogs were called out eventually, and the body was smelt. They smelled her body. Smelled.
Smelled.
They scented. They found her scent.
They found her scent.
They found the cadaver scent, as if from the driveway where his truck was at, the boat, and out into the street, as if the car was driving away with the body.
The orange van, you mean?
Well, the orange van was across the street. It wasn't at his home, but they tracked the scent in the driveway.
Well, she had to come out of the house at some point.
No, cadaver dogs at this point, the dead body scent. So she was coming out of the house dead? No, they smelled a dead body. They weren't tracking her scent. They smelled the dead body. So
She could have,
suspicious.
I mean, she could have been anywhere at that point.
What, the burglars tried to bring her body back home? Here, we'll kill her and we'll bring
No,
her back.
but I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that she was in those vehicles.
No, we don't know which vehicles
No.
she was in, but they did scent it around the boat. So
I mean,
let's go to the anchors because we did kind of touch on those.
mhm.
So Scott purchased 90 pounds of concrete,
Yes.
and he claimed he made 1 8-pound anchor, and they couldn't find the other 82 pounds of concrete.
Right.
They claim that there was some concrete spilled on a floor, but it spilled on some grass to fill up
Mhm.
a hole.
Yeah.
But it wasn't 82 pounds. I'm going to tell you that much of concrete
Mhm.
right there. So his first story was, I filled up the hole, found out it wasn't enough. Like, obviously. Oh, well, then I don't know what I did with it. How do you not know what you did with 82 pounds of concrete?
I mean, maybe it was back at his boat shed.
But it wasn't. Or on the bottom of the ocean. No, but that is one of the strong cases that they do have, and it's
Right.
really hard to defend him at that point,
Of
right?
course.
For that particular reason.
Absolutely.
But, contractors, came out, stole his concrete. Who knows? No. Who knows? But that is a really strong.
Johnny's a general contractor, and I don't think he's lugging around 82 pounds of concrete.
I don't even think there was a time that I've ever bought 82 pounds of concrete at one time.
Yeah,
even doing it in my backyard.
Yeah, it's.
That was a lot of concrete.
Yeah, like I said, there's definitely things that make this guy look very, very guilty.
Yes,
very guilty.
So Scott claims that he came home that day. He walks inside the house. He sees Laci's car there, but he doesn't think anything of it because she's supposed to be at her parents' house, who don't live very far. So he assumed that they came and picked her up.
Right, which is
it's
to
Christmas
me
Eve.
Absolutely normal.
Yeah, it's Christmas Eve, so he didn't think twice about it.
What I think is weird is that he's drinking milk and eating pizza.
That's the part that stood out. Guilty.
To me, I'm like,
you're all already
sorry.
Put him away just for that.
That in itself would.
That sounds disgusting. That does sound disgusting.
Yeah, when they said that that's what he was eating, I was like, oh, I think we have bigger issues. Maybe your diet.
Yeah. So, and I just want to make it clear, we're not laughing because we did get called out because we giggle a lot sometimes, and we are not laughing.
We said on multiple episodes that people deal with trauma in different ways. Yes. And sometimes finding humor in tragedy is a way that people deal with things and a way that people talk about things. And by no means do we mean any disrespect to any of the parties involved on this case or any case that we've ever talked about.
But some claims are so ridiculous that sometimes we have to laugh at. Some evidence is so ridiculous.
Yes.
That you have to kind of like, wait a second, why aren't they even like double checking this? So just to be clear out there, we never make light of somebody's life being taken or somebody losing their life.
Never.
Absolutely not. But, sometimes we have to find the little bit of humor in where we can, because to report on these tragedies, it takes a toll on our psyche.
Absolutely.
For reals. We read stuff, we see stuff, we look at stuff that most people wouldn't even want to lay their eyes on.
Yeah. And remember that we're doing this sometimes 2 times a week. So no matter it doesn't matter who's writing the story up or who's doing the editing or who's doing whatever, we both have to be up on the case. We both have to read something to familiarize ourselves with what we're talking about. And day after day after day after day of just reading this kind of stuff,
exposing ourselves to it. Yeah,
it's a lot. And so sometimes to keep it a little bit lighthearted is, kind of the route that we choose to take on this podcast.
It's our coping mechanism.
Yes.
So he gets home. He sees his dog still with the leash in the backyard, which the neighbor claims she saw the dog running around, puts him in the backyard. That's the proof that Laci was walking the dog. That's the proof. That's the evidence the defense is taking with them. Back door was open, but he never raised suspicion on where his wife was because, like I said, he assumed, this is his story, he assumed she was at his mother-in-law's house. After he throws his fishing clothes in the wash, takes a shower, then he decides to call and say, hey, is Laci there? And that's when they realize Laci never got there. The dog, then this is his side. He starts putting 2 and 2 together. And this is where he assumes that she's missing.
So let me ask you a question.
He never calls the police.
So let me ask you a question. If you were out fishing all day and you came home, your husband wasn't there.
Okay.
And you smell like trout or bass. You smell like bass.
Sturgeon is what he claimed he went fishing on. I'm going to bring up another point. He claimed he went fishing for sturgeon, but
there were none in the lake.
Yeah, it's out of season.
Yes.
First of all, you're legally not allowed to fish for them during that time of the season. And the lures that he supposedly said he got to fish for the sturgeon, the box was never opened. So he never went out there fishing for the sturgeon.
So back to my question.
So yes.
So if you were out there fishing all day and you came home, wouldn't one of the first things that you would do would be to shower and wash your clothes?
It would be one of the first things after I tried reaching my husband and saying, "Hey, where you at?" But see, I'm going to take it from a woman's point of view. My husband didn't tell me he was leaving without me to his family's house, unless she did. But if I came home and found my husband's truck in the driveway, even if I knew that he was going over to my mother-in-law's house.
Didn't he call her?
He called her on the drive, but she never picked up.
And he left her a message. And then he called back again, right?
No, he never called her after that.
I thought he called her again, but didn't leave a message.
He never, what? I don't know. I mean, it could be, but
I think he did. I'm not sure, but I think he called, left her a message, and then called again.
But then when he got home and saw that her car wasn't there, he never called her after that.
Right.
Never. That would have been my first call. Hey, where you at? I'm home. I see your truck here. Where you at? My next call before I jumped in the shower would have been to my mother-in-law's house. I don't think I would have showered and put my clothes in the wash. I think I would have been doing it in between, like trying to figure out where he's at. Like as I'm taking off my clothes, I'm calling, I don't know if that's a woman's thing to do
Maybe that's why I'm divorced.
You're like, yeah, I probably
because I would have probably eaten some pizza and
taken a shower.
Definitely not drink milk, but
see, I wouldn't have even eaten because if I thought I was going over to go have dinner for Christmas Eve with my,
you were out fishing all day, working up an appetite.
I probably would have taken a shower and just hopped on over there if they were expecting me. But see, I don't know. See, those are the things I don't know. Were they expecting him? Was the plan that he wasn't supposed to go over there anyways? It was just supposed to be her,
Right.
Because I know that there was a little bit of distance between them. I know, he claimed that she had found out that he was having an affair prior to this, but I don't believe that at all. But he ditched her at one point, ditched Laci. Scott, I'm going to make it clear. Scott ditched Laci at one point to go. He had Laci go to her Christmas party by herself to go with Amber, his mistress, to her Christmas party.
Still doesn't make him a murderer.
No, it doesn't. It just pisses me off, though. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just going to throw that out there because if you didn't think he was a piece of shit before this, he's really a piece of shit now. No, so
I'm like, but you want to hear about a piece of shit? I could do some episodes.
So,
and I'm not talking about my ex-husband, by the way. So please.
Yeah. So the initial observations at the scene by officers. So at first, Scott could not answer what he was fishing for.
Because he's nervous.
Why would he be nervous?
Because his wife's missing.
The cops are there. Not nervous. I'd want to give him as much information as possible. But you know me. I give way more information than people ask. That's why I didn't think it was suspicious that he produced a receipt from the Berkeley Marina. Like they brought that up like, oh, he produced a receipt and they didn't even ask for it. That would have been me. I would have been like, this is where I was. Here's my receipts. Here's my, here you go. Here's my bank statement. Here's my cards. Here's my best friend's number. We talked about this. You want to hear our whole conversation? Like, I would have given them way more.
Have, like made yourself look guilty by.
They would be looking at me like nobody's business because I would have.
And that's another thing that I think we kind of have to keep in mind. What are you doing?
Sorry. A little tiny ant was crawling
was
up
there
my
ants?
arm. No, just one. He was just a tiny little guy.
We had ant infestation in here this morning. So
well,
not in here actually, just the other part of the house. But yeah.
No, because we have a ton of rain in LA right now. We're building arcs right now in LA. We're not used to all this rain. We're being flooded out. We're trying to do this episode really quick, wrap it up before we have to get taken out in boats.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is some crazy.
It's a lot of rain.
Crazy rain.
So,
I forgot what I was going to say.
As far as giving so much information without being asked.
Yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that, but anyway, moving on.
So. He never, and this is some of the things that their initial observations. He never called the police to report her missing. There was a bunched up rug near the back door. I don't know, but that's just an observation. They're not linking it to anything. These are just their observations. And on Peterson's bed, there was a large indent impression on it, but if you look at my bed, probably over the years, mattresses do sink in and impressions happen.
I mean, he could have sat there to put his shoes on. He could have laid down for a little while.
They were a little suspicious that he never even tried to call her to see where she was at. He only called her at 2:15 on his way back from the marina and never tried to call her once he returned home. So I don't know if there was a second one on his drive back. But you said there was, so I trust you.
I feel like there was, but I mean, I could be wrong because I'm telling you, sometimes things the cases all start to blend together.
All the stories.
But they do. But something tells me that he called her again, but didn't leave a message.
But even with all this, their claim is that they didn't even name Scott as a person of interest at this time. They were treating him like a husband who has his wife missing, because at this point, she's just missing. There's no proof that she's no longer with us.
Correct. I mean, I feel like in a case like this, they're the number one suspect.
Well, always, because that's what
the husband's the husband's always the number one suspect. I do think that where I felt that where things kind of got ramped up is when Amber Frey came out. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, he's a murderer.
That's where the media took it. Yes.
Yes.
I do think the media unfairly exacerbated the...
Exacerbated?
Is that what I'm trying to get at? Unfairly, like, exaggerate, maybe like try to make
Correct.
a mountain out of a molehill.
Yep.
When Amber came out, all of a sudden suspicion did go towards Scott.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're going to touch on, there's a part on there, too, about Laci doing online shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So they were showing where Laci was online shopping at 8:40 a.m. to prove that she was alive that morning.
Right.
When he supposedly is supposed to be going on this fishing trip, right? And that she clicked on a link for sunflower umbrella stand and women's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's why they're saying Scott would not have had a sufficient amount of time to commit the crime because she was online shopping at this time. However, records show that Scott was actually on the computer logging in to his email account for work minutes prior to her jumping on. But he says he never saw her shopping. That was his claim. He never saw her shopping, but they were on the same computer with the same IP address. Minutes after the online shopping, he was back on it, the computer. That's what the computer's reading, like, you know, the memory of the computer where they get this. So it says moments after Laci shops, Scott checks weather at the Berkeley Marina. So they break it down, and I mean in Behind Criminal Minds, he breaks it down as far as temporary internet files. And there's this place where they store all this information on these files of websites you visit. Back in 2002, the temporary internet files could not differentiate between pop-up ads and what you actually click on. So even though they say that, it had to have been Laci online shopping because there was, online shopping for these umbrellas, sunflower umbrellas she likes, they're saying it could have been pop-up ads that popped up that showed the same as if you clicked on it and you were actually on that website.
And it just so happens that she really likes sunflowers.
Well, you know how our computers
not in 2002. Not in 2002.
Yes, they did track what you shopped for. They did track the things you liked. So, but if he claims she wasn't there on the like he didn't see her shopping, how is he on the same computer just minutes later? He would have seen her there.
He could have walked away.
And she got on super fast in 2 minutes and bought these 2 items and then jumped off in 2 minutes.
I mean, 2 minutes is a long time.
That's as weird as saying that the computer doesn't know what we like.
In 2002. Now I think it knows more than I do about me.
I think if that's something that she had searched for previously, I think the pop-up ads would know. I think the advertisements would know. Pop-up ads would know.
I disagree with you there.
Okay.
I really disagree with.
There might be there
because back then in 2002, I don't think that it was. I know that there were like a lot of pop-ups. I know like pop-ups were like.
Oh yeah, they came up for everything.
God, for everything. But I wouldn't go as far as saying that it would pop up as something.
So you think she was there and she shopped for 2 minutes and got back off?
Do I think she did it?
Came back?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it a possibility? Absolutely.
I don't think it's possible.
I do.
Yeah. We're like, that's okay. I'll take her down. No, just kidding. Okay. And so the next claim, and we kind of briefly touched on it though. And we already talked about that. The 11 witnesses that saw, and that we had the posters. So if you want to elaborate on that with the posters that described what she was wearing.
So all of the people that were claiming that the witnesses saying that they saw her walking Mackenzie, their dog, claimed that they saw a woman wearing black pants and a white t-shirt. And that is the picture that was posted on the missing poster. And so
that was the description they showed. They just said that
that's what she was
wearing.
But when her body was found, she was wearing khaki colored pants and a white t-shirt.
Yes. And the poster was offering a $500,000 reward.
Yes.
So these people were trying to give information.
Right.
Hoping for that reward.
Right.
But so that is why eyewitness testimony, and we've talked about this before.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
I stare at this. I have, for those of you that don't know, in this room, I have a cardboard cutout of my boyfriend, Keith Morrison from Dateline. And I look at that every single day. And I've had it forever. If somebody asked me what he's wearing, I couldn't tell you what he's wearing.
Hold on a second. You know what? Let me try this right now because it sits next to me this whole entire time.
The only thing I could 100% confidently tell you what he was wearing in that are his shoes.
Really? Okay. I'm going to say, because I've seen that poster many a times, it's right next to me, but I haven't looked at it today. I'm going to say he's wearing a white t-shirt, like a blue blazer, blue jeans, and white sneakers.
There's no white t-shirt.
I'm telling you.
And he has Converse on.
And they're not even white.
Yeah, they're gray.
And he's not wearing a blazer. He's wearing like a corduroy coat or a long sleeve shirt.
Yeah,
something. Yeah, see, and I see that poster every single day.
And you see that cut out.
I wouldn't even been able to tell you that he was standing sideways. I thought he was like this.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I could definitely tell you were his shoes.
See, and we've talked about eyewitness testimony before because we've even had incidences where we're in the same car and we don't see the same person driving. Mm-hmm. So it's just
like very drastically different. Yes. Like
different,
like a young kid to an old grandma. Like very
two
drastic.
Different sexes.
Yeah, like very, very drastic. So that's just my thing. That like you could be influenced by something that you read or see. And not even know, not even be aware that you're being influenced by it. They could have looked at that poster and been like, oh my God, you know what? She was wearing black pants and a white t-shirt.
And I was listening to a podcast right before I came over here and they were talking about that as well, where and it's the same case with me. I see the same people walking in my neighborhood every single day. Without a doubt, like I have the neighbor kids that walk their dog every day, every single day. If somebody asked me, were they out walking today? I could easily say yes, even though I saw them yesterday. Mm-hmm. Like, your days blend together sometimes. Because if you consistently see somebody doing something for such a long period of time, every single day, you're going to assume, and your brain's going to assume, yes, they did it that day as well.
Do I think that some of those 11 people probably said that they saw her because it was $500,000 reward? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think all of them did? No.
And some
I
of
feel
them
like
could
some
be
of them truly thought that they saw her,
Yes.
and maybe they did.
Yeah. And they could have. I mean, so then we have the issue with, because they're saying if she walked her dog that day, and I'm just going to put this out there just in case people don't know, they're saying if she did walk her dog that day, she walked it during a time period that he was already on his way to the marina. The marina was an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
He was already on his way over there. If he wasn't already on there, he was going to go over there. And
That
he wouldn't
right
have had
there,
enough time to
in
kill
itself,
her.
that would be a smoking gun. That would 100% prove he didn't do it.
If they can prove that she was
Correct.
out walking that day.
Correct.
But according to her doctor, in the fact that she was getting fainting spells, she stopped walking the dog a few weeks prior.
Correct.
So she wasn't out walking her dog. That's the prosecution's claim.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't have been out walking the dog. She was based on doctor's orders telling her, and the family claimed that she had not been walking the dog for a couple weeks.
Right. This portion of it, I do feel like, I feel like it's pretty strong because she wasn't feeling good. She was, obviously, they said that she had gone to the park and fainted at the park.
Yes.
She was, obviously towards the end of her pregnancy and not feeling well, and that the doctor had advised her, to stay home and not to do any exercising or not to do certain things. That I feel is like, it's a pretty strong, valid point.
I'd be scared because
especially by herself.
Yes, by herself. That's
if she wanted to walk, take somebody with you. So if you start not feeling well, you have someone with you.
And after you experience something like that, it scares you.
Right.
I can't see you repeating the same behavior.
Right.
Because of fear.
No, that I do agree.
Yeah. So there's a claim that the mail carrier didn't hear the dog bark when he came to deliver the mail, which the dog barked every single time he would deliver the mail. So that's why he's saying, oh, that's proof that she was out walking the dog, because the dog didn't bark.
Right.
But just 15 minutes prior, or what was it, 15, 20 minutes prior, the neighbor had found the dog wandering around outside with its leash on.
Right.
And put the dog back in the backyard.
There was like a 20-minute gap.
Yeah.
It was like 10:18 and 10:38.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
supposedly the dog was returned at 10:18. The male person didn't hear a dog barking at 10:38.
So that's the proof that she took the dog out.
Right.
Walking the dog. I don't know. To me, that was more proof that she was nowhere around, because the dog was wandering around. She took the dog back into the backyard. She tried knocking on the door to let them know. Nobody answered the door. She put the dog in the backyard. And then all of a sudden, Laci's out 20 minutes later walking the dog. That's what didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing too about the dog not barking, and I don't think that's like a valid
reliable.
No, because my dog barks at anything and everything. But I mean, I guess maybe I don't think there have been any times where he's shocked me. That he hasn't barked.
He surprised me with Dan the other day.
Oh,
that came over.
You're right.
Because her dog punks me all the time, barks, has me up against a wall for the first, 11 years of its life. Blue finally got used to me. And Dan comes over and the dog rolls over on its back and gives him his belly. I about died.
But I think too that a lot of that is energy.
It is.
He didn't have that nervous energy about him, and you do.
So I think that some dogs do react differently, and if that dog did witness some trauma, maybe the dog was quiet. Maybe the dog was afraid.
Yeah.
Maybe the dog being in the backyard didn't quite hear the mailman.
Of course.
For some reason that day.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe he reacted differently because his leash was on, and because the neighbor never took his leash off.
Me,
who knows?
There's a lot of different ways that could have played out, and that the dog not barking isn't like a...
I don't think that was a very good a claim or
No.
rebuttal on either side. Like, I don't think
No.
it helped the prosecution or the defense.
No, I don't
at
think
that
so.
point. So, and they did touch on Scott Peterson's behavior after Laci goes missing,
Yes.
and definitely, like we've touched on, like, behavior should not determine a person's innocence or guilt.
Right. I mean, bleached his hair. He's,
Well, there are some things that he did do afterwards that were really weird, especially
yes.
when the media and public opinion started
yes.
pointing their finger at him.
Correct.
So he did, like you said, he dyed his hair blonde. He dyed his goatee blonde.
Yeah.
He drove 6 hours to San Diego to play a round of golf with $15,000 cash. He was with family. His brother's ID, multiple different IDs.
Yeah.
He had Viagra going over to the border to Mexico. San Diego is really close to TJ.
Yes.
And so I'm just thinking, like, the man is heading to TJ. He grabbed his Viagra because TJ is known for a lot of strip clubs and a lot of brothels.
Yes.
So I'm like, so is this man like taking his Viagra heading over? Because this is the same man that days into his wife's disappearance, before they found the body, he's ordering porn.
Yes.
But then you have to also look, they're only in their late 20s.
Yeah.
Right now we're picturing him as the man he is now in his
Right.
50s. What is a 20-something, early 30-year-old man? I don't even know his exact age at this time. I probably should know that. But what does he need Viagra for? Isn't he already like...
You'd be surprised.
Okay, well, the man needed Viagra.
You'd be surprised. I
Maybe-
worked in a pharmacy,
Really?
and I will tell you that we had more men under 35 with prescriptions than we did over.
I wonder if it's because they just want that extra boost and sensation and that extra lasting
I didn't
power.
ask.
We're going to take a poll.
didn't
It'll be up on
ask.
YouTube as to why men under 30 are ordering Viagra.
I didn't ask.
But yeah, but
Excuse me, sir. Can I question you real quick about this before I
wondering
fill it
why.
for you?
thank you. That would
I just have a few questions. You would.
I want to ask. So he had that. He had his brother's ID. They were close to Mexico, but he claimed, and his family claimed, that the reason why he changed his appearance because he was sleeping in his car because he didn't want to go home because the media was
Correct.
hounding him.
Which I believe.
And so he didn't want to be recognized. He wanted to be able to go out and have a day of golf. But okay, that might be part of it, but I really think he was taking off to Mexico after his round of golf with his family. The one big hurrah goodbye to his family. Let's do one more round of golf and I'm going to head over to Mexico. Because why would he have $15,000 cash on him?
I mean, I carry that.
The man didn't even have...
Go get my purse.
Just kidding. But the man didn't even have, when they talked about it earlier,
Right.
didn't even have $1,500.
Yeah, to buy a
He
boat.
struggled to buy that boat.
Maybe he pulled everything, which obviously he did pull everything out of his savings.
But that was everything out of his savings, supposedly together. That's his family coming up with money to help him. That's how I see it.
Maybe.
You
Maybe.
know?
That's a possibility.
Yeah, because this is the same family that are trying to get him exonerated. So they claim that he lacked empathy. But some people react differently. Sometimes I feel like, and I try really hard, but sometimes I think something's wrong with me sometimes, because when things are going really hard, I get on automatic mode. Like, no, I'm okay. No, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I don't have empathy and I'm not feeling it. I just don't want to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see
no,
people
that's-
perceiving me
Yeah,
as
you can't base
no
anything off of the way people act because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like even when I was taking care of my grandparents when they were dying, like I felt like I was on such automatic mode that when they finally died, it took me a few days to even cry.
Mhm.
It was that initial tears, but like it took, because I was just so busy, like get the funeral ready. Like it was always just automatic. What am I going to do? And these are the people who raised me. Like I lived with them. And so it's like, but it took me a few days for that to happen.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine if somebody's missing.
Right.
And I do have to say, and it's not the same for him. I'm not going to say this, but if my husband went missing, my first initial reaction might be anger, because I'm like, he left me.
Right.
Like my mind would not go to him being kidnapped or
And
killed.
killed. Yeah. Yeah.
My first mind goes, that little piece of,
yeah.
when's he going to let me know he's not coming home?
Exactly.
Like, you know,
Yeah,
like
no.
I would go through worry, anger, you know,
Yeah.
until I got a hold of him. So, you know,
Yeah, you don't know
people's
what goes
reaction.
through people's mind.
Yes. But not too long after her body still hasn't been found, he's contacting a real estate agent
Mm-hmm.
to sell the home and all her stuff in it. What's that about? Like, how she's only missing at this time. He goes and he's trying to sell her car.
Yeah.
She's only missing. Isn't she supposed to be coming back? Why?
He doesn't know that.
Yeah, but why would you sell her car?
For
You
money?
don't know that. No, I think you'd sell it if you knew
What?
she wasn't coming back.
But what was selling her car gonna, like?
Gather the cash to escape. That's probably where the $15,000 came in. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. Should have read that sentence beforehand. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, he's ordering porn, selling her car, selling the house, getting ready to take off. All that leads to him that's why the cops were tailing him,
Yes.
because they knew that they didn't know, but they had suspicion that
Yes.
he might take off. Okay. So, and he spent months trying not to give the family back her keepsakes.
Right.
He was holding on to it. And then after she was found, he refused to give her dental records.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not want to have her identified?
Yeah, I don't know.
And he claimed that he didn't even know what dentist she had, but they went to the same dentist.
Right.
A lot of suspicious activity.
No, definitely.
While Laci was missing, you mentioned that Amber had a daughter.
Yes.
And he was playing dad, but he did make it very clear to Amber he didn't want to have any more kids. He was going to have a vasectomy, didn't want any more kids.
Yep.
They talked about it. He was fine with just Amber having that one child. But I don't understand what's the difference between maybe financial response. That's just so weird that it's okay that my mistress has a child, but my wife, I don't want to.
And you're going to off your wife and your kid to be with her.
You're trading.
Wouldn't you rather have your own child than someone else's?
And raise your own. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But Laci had received a baby book at the baby shower, and he gifted it to Amber's
Yes.
daughter.
Yes.
Before they even found Laci's body.
Yes.
He never participated in a single event to help find Laci. He took down pictures that featured him and Laci. And he would slip out the back door at any of these events.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that. He didn't want his picture taken, but
Right.
we knew why. He was avoiding the media because he didn't want Amber to find out. And since then, he sued the family of Laci Peterson for the life insurance policy that they received on her.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a piece of work right there.
No, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that this guy is a piece of trash. Like,
Yeah.
he really is. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that this guy is like top notch A1 citizen. Like, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I think he deserves the right to have everything. Sorry, it's 555.
Yeah. Hi.
My phone just lit up.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
Her dog visits us at 555.
Remind me to tell you something after
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, I just think that he deserves, as does everybody, to get all of the evidence submitted and not just half-ass it.
Yeah. No, that's true.
That's all.
There's one big thing I wanted to bring up, but before that, when you said like, 555, it's a whole story behind her dog who recently passed away. And I think we touched on another episode, but 555's girl coming back to say hi. But I looked over because my phone came on too. Like my phone lit up. So I looked, but I didn't look at the time because it's kind of far away. And you lifted it up and said 555.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
She's right here with us. It gives me chills.
Yeah.
So, okay. So there is one point that, that they did bring up in the series is a similar crime that was committed where a body washed ashore, another pregnant woman who washed up on shore. And so the docuseries on A&E was trying to say like, hey, there could have been a serial killer out there, or somebody who targeted women who were pregnant, because this lady as well, her name was Evelyn Hernandez. She was pregnant and she was found in the same area that Laci and Connor were found. And so they were saying that the police should have investigated this. But just so you know, I want to do an episode on this one too, because no one's ever been convicted, not even brought up to face charges on this one. But she had a boyfriend who was married, kind of the same. She was the mistress, who ended up being pregnant. And so they're kind of looking at him. Herman Aguilera was a married man. So
I don't feel like these two cases were connected in any way.
Yes, I don't think so either. But I know that
especially
when
you read about the circumstances of her life versus the circumstances in Scott and Laci Peterson.
Yes,
she was the mistress.
She was the mistress.
Yeah.
And she broke up with this guy, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But they did kind of bring that touch on that, like, hey, there could have been a serial killer out there.
Right.
Look over here. But absolutely not the case. But now that we're talking about the bodies being washed up, one more point I wanted to come talk to you about was the fact that a claim that they're making is they were looking at the gestational age of Connor.
Right.
So supposedly at the time she was 31 weeks pregnant. But the baby they found, they said, one, it didn't look like a fetus. It looked like a newborn baby, and it looked about 34 weeks. This is by people who came on the stand.
Right.
The prosecution. This was presented at trial.
Right.
And the decomposition of the bodies, it didn't appear that they were in the water as long as they should have been if they were put in the water on December 24th.
Right.
And this is probably something I should have written down, but you probably have it, is when were their bodies found? How many weeks or months after?
I don't have that.
Okay.
Let me look.
So then we can look at how long they were in the water. And some experts were saying they were not in the water that long. But my question to Gina earlier was, could he have wrapped them up good enough in like whatever plastic bags, whatever you can wrap somebody up in, and throw them in the water with these anchors? Could it have preserved the bodies a little bit longer? Like,
she disappeared on the 24th, December 24th, 2002. Her body was discovered in April of 2003. So 4 months.
So 4 months later, and they're saying the decomposition of the body doesn't match the time frame,
right?
And the gestational age of Connor, and they're saying like maybe he was born, but I thought he was found with his umbilical cord.
Well, maybe because they said
it was a live birth,
right? So they said that at some point, obviously she gave birth to him at some point. Maybe it wasn't right away.
Well, I did hear at one point, I forgot where I heard this. It might have even been on Dexter. I've been binge watching that after a woman dies, their body, if
will
far
expel
enough along,
everything.
Will
Yes.
expel it.
Yes.
But she was found with all her insides missing.
Yeah.
Her head, lower parts of her limbs, a foot. Could it have been because of the anchors holding her down and her body?
I mean, she could have limbs missing from fish.
Yeah, the food down there. Yeah, being
you,
eaten.
You don't know.
Insides, you don't. And I'm not a forensic expert, so I would have no clue. But that is just some of the things that I'm thinking.
And it is odd because especially when you get later into your pregnancy, 3 weeks is a huge deal towards the end.
It is.
Your baby can
difference.
grow a pound a week at that point.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks could be the difference of potentially 3 pounds in that baby.
And so
that's a huge 31 weeks and 34 weeks are
that's a huge deal.
A huge difference.
And so I'm wondering if that's where the defense is coming at, like looking at that part of it.
And honestly,
because their claim is she was being held for a few weeks and then she was killed, and they dumped her at the marina because they knew that it would point suspicion at Scott if the bodies were found where he went fishing that day. And that not necessarily he was being framed, but that it would take suspicion off whoever actually did take Gar.
And that's definitely something to look at.
Yeah,
for sure. But how many people have you heard of that the doctors have gotten their due date wrong too?
No, absolutely right. Yeah.
It could be something as easy as
she was really 34 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would have just, for it to been a murder with no motive, I think that would have been putting way too much thought and forethought into all of that. I don't know. Yeah. But it is a possibility. I mean, it really, really is.
But just to make it clear, I think he did it. Like after me, I looked at multiple, we've looked at series. I've looked at,
we've watched things,
podcasts
that are biased on both sides.
Oh yeah. And so that's my take on it. I think the jury was given the information that they were given and they came to the conclusion for that reason.
Right.
I think he had the motive. I think he had the means. I think he was planning it. But I mean, like we said, everybody deserves a fair shot. And if all the evidence wasn't presented, present it and then convict him again. Like I'm all for convicting him again. I hate the fact that the family has to go through this though. Yes. We do touch on that. Like, it's terrible that, because I know
have to relive all of it.
Yeah. I know if I had somebody murder my children or my husband, I'd want it
especially
done like just
20 years later. Like, come on.
But I would prefer, like we've talked about the Chris Watts case, I would prefer knowing everything and knowing for sure that the right person is in there. Absolutely. And have that peace of mind without any of the questions. I would like that as well. So, and everybody should, whoever participated should be
for sure
prosecuted and in jail for it. But in this case, it's just Scott. So but
thank
you so much.
Let us know. Your
no,
thoughts.
Please. I was going to ask you, because you know how to do this on YouTube, put up like a little poll up there and see what people think about it after, go to multiple. Don't just get your information from us. Please look around, go to multiple and give us your input.
Because love to hear it. If you have the time, I would say watch the A&E special.
Yes.
But know that it's definitely from the viewpoint of Scott Peterson being not guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely that's the only one I know of that's out there from that standpoint. All the other ones are, but there could be more that I don't know about, but there's plenty of information out there. So if you're not familiar with the case or whatever, get your information from multiple sources and, let us know what you feel, what you think. And, people, I already know. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm already ready for it.
I'm not going to let Gina read the comments.
I'm already ready for it. No, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
It's just, I know that just like this case, just like the Chris Watts case, just like a bunch of different cases, people are very, very passionate about certain cases, especially when they involve children, and especially an unborn child at that.
Yeah.
So I completely understand the passion behind all of it. But at the end of the day, like I have said multiple times before, it does not matter what I think.
Yeah.
He's where he's at.
Yeah. He's there and he's serving his time, and there's a way to express your opinion. So just be kind in the comments, and be respectful towards other people's opinions. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a thought on it.
Yeah.
And I just ask that everybody's respectful of other people's opinions and what they think.
Yeah,
whether
because
or not
people
you
are
agree with
arguing in the comment section and with each other and not even involving us. But please just be respectful to us and be respectful to other people in the comment section. We didn't do this for a place for people to come and argue and be mean and any of that.
Just for informational purposes only. And we are not judge and jury. So Scott's where he's at. We're not going to change that, and we're not changing any of that. So but thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and we will see you guys very soon.
Yes, be safe out there.
Bye.
Bye.